Man, my man got a bad bitch in real life, in real motherfucking life. And I ain't never going nowhere. We locked in. You can't compare where you can't compete, stink. Yeah, him, that's me. Bye.
A single burst of fireworks cracked open the night sky. Then came the gunfire that shattered lives in Fort Worth, Texas. Independence Day in Fort Worth always had a special atmosphere. Neighbors barbecuing, children chasing each other through sprinklers, and the sky throbbing with every color of the rainbow. Every sense was overwhelmed by the annual fireworks, the pungent smell of smoke in the air, and the laughter that ran through the streets. On July 4th, 2024, Castleman Street was no different, until it became the scene of one of the most devastating tragedies this community had ever experienced. Castleman Street and Comanche Street formed a grid of cozy, single-family homes, places passed down through generations, each porch holding precious memories. That evening, an estimated 200 to 300 people spilled out into the intersection, many of them from nearby blocks, others drawn by the promise of good times. Cars lined the roads in every direction, some folks blaring music from open trunks, while others piled lawn chairs on the pavement to watch the fireworks overhead. It seemed like a typical 4th of July block party. Families unwrapped plates of freshly grilled hot dogs and burgers, children lit sparklers while screaming in delight, and everyone's spirits soared. The smell of gunpowder from fireworks blended with the aroma of sizzling meats. Ambient light from festive LED strips and the occasional street lamp gave the scene a cheery glow, promising a night free from worries. But as the night wore on, a new crowd showed up, drivers revving engines and drifting around corners in a show of bravado. Neighbors began to grow uneasy. Fireworks weren't just rocketing skyward. Some were being launched horizontally, zipping past people's legs or bouncing off the sides of houses. A few of the louder blasts made windows rattle. Tension began to build beneath the laughter, and a sense of unease spread like a slow-moving current. Right in the middle of this chaotic but still celebratory scene was 39-year-old Tasha Hyman, a warm-hearted makeup artist known for giving her customers the confidence of a star. She called her business Slay by Shay, a brand recognized for masterful transformations, from weddings to proms to photo shoots. Tasha was more than just a makeup artist. She was a beacon of positivity. Clients often came in for a makeover and left with renewed self-esteem. Her fiancé, Tommy Howard, adored her. He described her as the sweetest person on earth. Years earlier, Tommy suffered the loss of his previous fiancée to cancer, leaving a wound that had barely begun to close. Tasha had helped him heal. Her laughter, her resilience, her unwavering support. She was the one who convinced him that life could still be beautiful after deep heartbreak. Tommy often joked that Tasha was a spark of light in any room she entered. From the short videos she posted online, it was clear she knew how to bring people together. Her online following was devoted. Over 1,000 people across Fort Worth came to Tasha for makeup tips, personal advice, and the occasional comedic livestream from her phone. For Tasha, the 4th of July was the perfect time to celebrate community, food, and fireworks. She'd grown up loving the spectacle of the holiday, the vibrant flashes, the smell of barbecue, the sense of unity that always seemed to swirl around the red, white, and blue. Determined to capture those vibes, she fired up her phone's camera that night and started live streaming. In one of her last uploads, her voice exuded excitement. She panned around the street, showing fireworks streaking overhead and a police cruiser sitting at the corner with its lights flashing. Officers, who had already responded to complaints about reckless driving and fireworks, watched warily but hadn't yet intervened. You could hear Tasha's breathless commentary in the background. She wanted her audience to feel like they were part of the party. She was laughing, telling everyone how festive it felt, describing the huge crowd and the glow in the sky. As the evening wore on, the mood on the street started to shift. Some people began firing off more powerful aerial fireworks close to homes, a few landing uncomfortably near the police cruiser. Others started lighting smaller fireworks at ground level, launching them dangerously close to the throng of partygoers. A wave of nervous laughter rippled through the crowd each time something whizzed by too close. Neighbors who lived on Castleman Street found themselves growing irritated. Their front lawns were being trampled, and the roar of accelerating engines drowned out any sense of calm. While many people maintained a festive spirit, there were pockets of conflict, raised voices here, disagreements there. Sparks literally and figuratively flew. Tasha's live stream picked up some of this tension. The camera shook as she walked, showing a swirl of bright, flashing lights, people dancing in the street, and occasional glances at spinning car tires. Strangers stepped in front of her phone, mugging for the camera, shouting greetings to whoever was watching. Tasha greeted everyone with the same grin, never suspecting that the night was about to turn dark. Somewhere past 11:30 p.m., a staccato of loud pops boomed above the usual firework blasts. At first, many assumed it was more fireworks. But these pops had a sharper crack. Almost instantaneously, the crowd's mood changed. People began shouting, ducking, and running for cover behind parked cars. The camera on Tasha's stream jerked wildly. You could catch a glimpse of sparks hitting the pavement, though it was unclear if they were from fireworks or muzzle flashes. In the confusion, fireworks continued bursting overhead, casting harsh light on the street. The combination of fireworks and gunshots became a sensory overload for those caught in the middle. Some watchers of Tasha's live stream posted frantic comments, asking what was happening, urging her to get away. But Tasha's feed cut off abruptly, leaving her online viewers in suspense, some believing her phone had merely lost connection. When the gunshots subsided, Tasha Hyman lay on the ground. She had been fatally struck by stray bullets. Those who rushed to her side saw her phone next to her, the screen still lit for a moment before it finally timed out. The cheering and laughter that had dominated minutes earlier gave way to screams, cries for help, and desperate calls to 911. Amid the chaos, 26-year-old Marcus Martin Jr. also lost his life. In the immediate aftermath, most people believed he had suffered a heart attack from panic, but an autopsy would later reveal the grim truth. He, too, had been shot. At least 2 others were injured by gunfire, but they would survive their wounds, left with physical scars and profound trauma. Officers on site scrambled to secure the area, but the sheer number of people fleeing meant crucial witnesses were dispersed almost immediately. Some left in cars before the police could even realize multiple victims were down. Shell casings of different calibers littered the street, a sign that more than one firearm had been used. News of Tasha's death traveled fast. Social media lit up with tributes. People who had followed her makeup tutorials or tuned into her light-hearted live streams expressed disbelief. How could Tasha, so full of life, be gone? Slay by Shay, her business, posted a tearful memorial, announcing the studio's temporary closure and thanking the community for their support. Clients left stories in the comments about how Tasha's kindness had helped them through insecurities, heartbreak, and life's hurdles. For Tommy Howard, the devastation was unimaginable. He had already lost one fiancée to cancer. Now, gun violence has stolen another. In a single night, the life he had built around Tasha's warmth disintegrated. Local reporters tried to speak with him, but he could barely string together words. He posted on social media, "Somebody saw something. Somebody knows. Please speak up." Grief also washed over Marcus Martin's family. Initially overlooked in the media coverage, since Tasha's tragic livestream brought her case immediate attention. Marcus's name surfaced once the coroner confirmed he died from a gunshot wound. Friends described him as a charming, funny guy from San Diego who had come to Fort Worth for a new start. The heartbreak was doubled. 2 families left in tatters on a holiday dedicated to celebrating freedom. The Fort Worth Police Department launched a full-scale investigation. However, the case was complicated by the dense crowd and the widespread panic. Many potential witnesses told officers they saw nothing, heard nothing, or didn't want to be involved. Fear wrapped itself around the neighborhood, creating a wall of silence. Detectives canvassed homes, going door to door, hoping security camera footage or eyewitness accounts might reveal a shooter or a motive. Anyone with a shred of information was asked to come forward. Crime scene technicians spent days collecting and cataloging every shell casing, measuring bullet trajectories, and logging each piece of evidence. At first, they were left with a chaotic puzzle: multiple guns, a massive crowd, and a swirl of fireworks that blurred the timeline of events. The block party had drawn people from different neighborhoods and even other cities, making it tough to narrow down suspects. Officers found themselves sorting through hours of social media posts, including Tasha's final live stream, to glean any sign of what triggered the violence. When investigators re-watched Tasha's final moments, they noticed something easily overlooked by casual observers: a group of men in the background. The camera, unsteady from Tasha's movement, captured these men loitering near cars parked close to the intersection. One of them, wearing a black hoodie with a red bandana around his wrist, seemed agitated. At one point, he locked eyes with Tasha's camera. Even though the audio was overwhelmed by fireworks, his expression showed annoyance or anger that she was filming. A second figure in a white tank top whispered something to him. Then the live stream panned away. Detectives froze the frame and zoomed in to identify the distinct shape of a scar running along the first man's jawline. Cross-referencing this detail with mugshots in their database, investigators landed on Javon J. Rock Matthews, a known affiliate of a local gang tied to several weapons charges. Matthews had managed to slip away from the scene that night. Officers tried every known address, but he was gone. No sign of him at usual hangouts, no car in sight. The search for Matthews was met with resistance. Some local residents felt uneasy around the police, believing cooperation might put them in danger. Others whispered about gang-related threats and the no-snitch culture that often prevailed in high-crime areas. The more police probed, the quieter the community seemed to get. Still, the homicide unit persisted. They retrieved phone records, trolled social media profiles, and pressed known associates. The tension in Fort Worth climbed. People wanted justice for Tasha and the other victims, but they also feared retaliation if they spoke up. A month later, a SWAT team finally captured Javon J. Rock Matthews in a small apartment on the east side of Fort Worth. Detectives expected him to clam up entirely, but as soon as he realized the weight of the evidence against him, he started talking. Whether out of remorse, fear, or a plea for leniency, he confessed there was more to the shooting than random gunfire. According to Matthews, the entire night was orchestrated by an individual who wanted someone dead, but that target wasn't Tasha. Tasha was collateral damage, an innocent bystander who ended up in the line of fire. The real target was, in fact, Marcus Martin Jr., the same man the coroner initially believed had died from a medical emergency. Police were stunned. 2 deaths in one night. One from random gunfire, one from a targeted hit. It sounded like a scene from a gang movie, but the forensics backed up Matthews' statements. The bullet that killed Marcus came from a different caliber than the one that killed Tasha. And ballistic analysis showed there were at least 3 distinct firearms used that night. When detectives pressed Matthews about the motive, he hesitated, apparently terrified of naming names. But eventually, he revealed a chilling scenario. Marcus was accused of owing a large sum of money tied to a botched drug deal. At least 2 known associates had grown impatient and wanted revenge, believing that Marcus had double-crossed them. Now, the question became, who was the puppet master behind this chaos? Matthews claimed he was just muscle, paid to show up and handle business if needed, and that there were 2 other shooters. One was 21-year-old Todrick Rogers, who had been arrested earlier. The other? A man so feared in certain circles that people refused to speak his name, Darnell D. Foster. Foster wasn't just another street-level figure. He had ties to a larger network of illicit activities, from narcotics to illegal firearms. Rumors swirled that Foster manipulated the entire party environment, reckless donuts in the street, fireworks aimed at houses, and a raucous crowd, to camouflage a planned hit. Fireworks would mask the sound of gunfire, and a massive gathering would ensure confusion once bullets started flying. Detectives now had their sights on Darnell D. Foster, but finding him proved even harder than locating Matthews. They suspected he left Fort Worth altogether, possibly heading to another state. A web of connections made it difficult to track him. Some of his family members claimed ignorance, others refused to talk. Meanwhile, Tasha's loved ones held vigils, and local activists organized marches against gun violence. The tragedy struck a deep chord, highlighting how a moment of celebration could spiral into homicide. Pastors across the city used Tasha's story to preach about the devastating cost of silence. Even so, tangible leads on Foster's whereabouts remained scarce. Then, 2 weeks after capturing Matthews, police got a break. They intercepted a phone call between 2 of Foster's known associates. The coded language suggested Foster was still nearby, possibly lying low in a motel on the outskirts of town, waiting for the right time to flee the state. On August 2nd, 2024, just under a month since Tasha and Marcus lost their lives, SWAT teams converged on a budget motel off Highway 30. With the building surrounded, they moved in quietly, hoping to avoid any shootout that could endanger other guests. In one of the back rooms, they found Darnell D. Foster huddled behind a door, holding a firearm but apparently unprepared for a full SWAT assault. He surrendered. The arrest went off without gunfire or injury, and detectives finally had the alleged mastermind in custody. Yet the real question still loomed. Why turn a holiday block party into a war zone for a single hit on Marcus Martin? Foster refused to speak without an attorney, and even then, offered minimal information. But evidence collected from phone records, ballistic analysis, and confessions from Matthews eventually painted a fuller picture. At this point, shocking details emerged. Prosecutors would later piece together a sequence of events that revealed the full magnitude of what happened. Foster, along with several associates, learned that Marcus Martin planned to attend the Castleman Street celebration. They believed Marcus owed thousands of dollars from a drug deal gone sideways. Foster allegedly wanted the block party's noise to mask the shooting. Fireworks, engine revving, and loud crowds would create the perfect cover for an assassination. Foster brought in at least 2 shooters, Matthews and Rogers, each armed with a different firearm. The plan was to confront Marcus under the chaos, ensuring no one could pinpoint the direction of the shots. Tasha, entirely unaware of any criminal plot, live-streamed everything, including fleeting shots of the men planning in the background. When gunfire broke out, she was filming near the intersection where Martin was targeted. She was struck by bullets meant for someone else or possibly fired randomly amid the confusion. As people scattered, the shooters disappeared. Foster blended into the crowd momentarily, speaking to police in the chaos, perhaps even feigning concern, then slipped away. Marcus collapsed from his injuries, mistaken at first as a victim of cardiac arrest. Tasha's phone, still streaming, captured muffled shouting before everything went dark. The double tragedy reignited simmering tensions about safety, police-community relations, and the toll of gun violence in certain Fort Worth neighborhoods. Over the weeks that followed, residents held candlelight vigils for Tasha and Marcus, placing flowers and handwritten notes at the intersection of Castleman and Comanche. People wore T-shirts with Tasha's picture, remembering her as an inspiration who used her talents to uplift others. Her fiancé Tommy Howard spoke at a public memorial. She didn't deserve this. Not one bit. She was out there celebrating life, celebrating everything good. I beg anyone, if you saw anything that night, please help us get the whole truth. Marcus Martin's family flew in from San Diego, demanding to know why media coverage focused so heavily on Tasha and not equally on their son. Over time, as more details surfaced, both families joined together in press conferences, united in grief. They demanded transparency and swift justice from the district attorney's office. Charging 3 suspects in a crime with multiple shooters and multiple victims was a legal labyrinth. Prosecutors compiled ballistic reports, forensic evidence, witness statements, social media logs, and security camera footage from nearby homes. Tasha's livestream, incomplete as it was, served as a cornerstone of the narrative, showing the lead up to the gunfire and capturing fleeting images of key players. Todrick Rogers was the first to be charged with murder. His attorney argued that Rogers only fired warning shots in response to chaos. However, ballistic evidence suggested bullets from Rogers's gun matched shell casings found near Tasha's body. Ultimately, the jury found him guilty of manslaughter, resulting in a 25-year sentence. Javon J. Rock Matthews took a plea deal after confessing partial involvement. He cooperated to a degree, providing details that corroborated the presence of multiple shooters, though he also tried to minimize his own role. In exchange, prosecutors dropped the top murder charge, and Matthews received 15 years on charges related to illegal firearm possession and accessory to manslaughter. The biggest fish, however, was Darnell D. Foster, the alleged mastermind who orchestrated the entire plot to kill Marcus Martin. Prosecutors charged him with first-degree murder for Marcus and second-degree murder for Tasha, alongside charges of aggravated assault for the other shooting victims and illegal possession of a firearm. In court, Foster maintained a stone-faced demeanor. He insisted he had nothing to do with the shootings, claiming he was just a bystander who ran in panic. The prosecution presented phone records placing him at the scene, text messages hinting at a debt Marcus owed, and witness statements confirming Foster's hostility toward Marcus. Most compellingly, the ballistic evidence tied the entire sequence together in a manner that left the jury with little doubt. After a month-long trial, Foster was convicted on all major counts, receiving life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought relief to many, but it couldn't mend the heartbreak. Neither Tasha's nor Marcus's families took comfort in the length of Foster's sentence. A night meant for celebration ended in lives cut short. No legal penalty could resurrect the joy that once flowed through Castleman Street. As the dust settled, Fort Worth struggled to return to normal. Slay by Shea reopened under the guidance of Tasha's close friends and coworkers, offering free makeovers to local women in her memory. People described Tasha as a shining example of how simple acts of kindness, like a reassuring word during a makeover, could transform hearts as well as appearances. Marcus's story might not have garnered as many headlines initially, but those who knew him mourned just as deeply. He had moved to Fort Worth looking for a fresh start, new job opportunities, a chance to escape a rocky past. His family emphasized that while he wasn't perfect, he was trying to build a better life. They established a scholarship fund in his name to support young men who want to relocate for college or vocational programs, hoping that tragedies like Marcus's won't repeat. The block party shooting shook Fort Worth's sense of security. City council members proposed stricter regulations on large street gatherings, while local police urged residents to notify authorities earlier about potential hazards like drag racing or reckless fireworks usage. Some critics argued that more policing wasn't the answer, advocating instead for deeper community engagement and youth outreach programs that address the roots of violence. In many ways, the tragedy became a rallying cry for change. Neighborhood watch groups strengthened, forging alliances with local clergy and businesses. They started hosting peace rallies on the same streets once marred by violence, showing that unity could conquer fear. Still, the emotional scars remain. Families keep their doors locked earlier. Street parties grow smaller, or they move into controlled environments. A spirit of caution replaced the carefree attitude that once prevailed on Independence Day. Tasha's loss isn't an isolated story. Countless communities across the United States have experienced similar heartbreak, a joyous event shattered by bullets. Each time, families and neighborhoods are left to pick up the pieces, some never fully recovering from the trauma. Her name joins an ever-growing list of victims whose stories underscore the urgent need for real solutions to gun violence. Nonprofit organizations stepped in to honor Tasha's life by sponsoring events that combined her passion for makeup artistry with anti-violence awareness. Local youth programs invited licensed counselors to speak about conflict resolution, encouraging young people to find better ways to handle disputes than resorting to guns. In Tasha's memory, a local cosmetology school established a small scholarship in her name, allowing budding makeup artists from underprivileged backgrounds to pursue their dreams. Even with the convictions, some elements of the case still spark debate. A few friends of Tasha wonder if she captured more than a casual glimpse of the plot on her livestream. Did she unknowingly film conversations or interactions that led the shooters to see her as a threat? Police records indicate Tasha was not a primary target, but the abrupt end to her livestream leaves room for speculation. Some watchers claim they heard muffled threats in the background. Others say it was just the confusion of fireworks. The complexity of the shootout, bullets flying from multiple directions, leaves lingering questions. While ballistic analysis connected certain bullets to specific guns, not every round was conclusively matched. Could there be other shooters who escaped detection? Although law enforcement publicly expressed confidence that they had all major suspects in custody, rumors persist that other unidentified participants fired shots that night. For Tommy Howard, closure remains elusive. He continues to grieve, missing Tasha's infectious laugh and daily words of affirmation. He visits her grave regularly, sometimes posting on social media about the ache that never quite fades. "She was my son," he once wrote, "and a chunk of my world went dark when she left." The events on Castleman and Comanche serve as a grim lesson on how quickly festivities can turn lethal under the weight of unresolved conflicts and reckless behavior. A single spark that should have lit up the night in celebration instead triggered irreversible harm. Tasha's name often surfaces in local conversations about safer celebrations, about how communities can better protect themselves and each other from the unforeseen threat of gun violence. At schools in the Fort Worth area, teachers sometimes reference this tragedy in lessons about social responsibility and standing up for what's right. Students learn how one moment of violence can send ripples of pain across an entire city, and how silence can embolden those who believe they can get away with murder. The message: speak up, be aware, and remember that every life lost to gun violence has a story, a family, and a future that ended too soon. Local leaders also initiated Know Your Neighbor campaigns, aiming to rebuild a sense of unity that had been shattered. Neighborhood barbecues, block parties, and seasonal festivals continue, but they often come with additional guidelines, security measures, and heightened awareness. Some residents say the extra steps help them feel safer. Others lament the loss of spontaneity that once characterized their celebrations. In the aftermath, Tasha's role as a makeup artist, friend, and beacon of positivity became even more significant. She wasn't just someone caught by stray bullets. She was the heart of her community, someone who believed in the transformative power of a kind word and a fresh look. Her death served as a rallying point, reminding everyone that behind every victim's name lies a story of dreams, family, and a life that mattered. Marcus Martin's memory similarly resonates. He represented a man trying to start over, a testament to how complicated people's paths can be. Whether he made mistakes or faced unfortunate circumstances, he still had potential for a better tomorrow, a future that was stolen. His name symbolizes the hidden layers in every tragedy. We don't often see the second victim overshadowed by the more publicly known story, but his loss is just as devastating. The combination of these two stories, the widely mourned Tasha and the quietly overshadowed Marcus, became a poignant reminder that no life is truly insignificant, and every life cut short leaves a void. As the case is wrapped up in court, Fort Worth collectively breathed a sigh of relief. But that sigh carried a heavy undertone of sadness, regret, and the nagging awareness that many questions would remain unanswered. Police statements reflected satisfaction that justice, in a legal sense, had been served. But those who loved Tasha or Marcus could never be fully consoled. Headlines moved on, new stories emerged, but the memory of that night on Castleman Street still lingered in the minds of everyone who was there, or who saw Tasha's final moments on her livestream. If there's any silver lining, it's the way local leaders, activists, and everyday citizens have tried to channel grief into action. The entire community vowed not to let Tasha's story fade into just another statistic. They fundraised for safer community events, encouraging more robust planning and coordinated security. Block parties still happen, but neighbors collaborate with the police to avoid a repeat of the tragic meltdown of that night. Anti-violence campaigns often feature Tasha's smiling photo next to the words, "Every life matters. Speak up to stop the violence." Schools bring in motivational speakers who talk about how tiny disputes can explode into life-altering tragedies if left unchecked. The local cosmetology scholarship in Tasha's name continues to help aspiring makeup artists chase their dreams. Were Tasha and Marcus simply at the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was there something deeper, some detail in Tasha's livestream that put her in mortal danger? The theories swirl, and the case may never provide a perfect resolution. But one undeniable truth remains. Two families lost loved ones on a night that should have united a community in celebration. So here's my question for you. Do you believe this was a cut-and-dried situation of stray bullets hitting bystanders, or could Tasha's livestream have captured something that made her a target? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found value in exploring Tasha's story and want to raise awareness about the impact of gun violence, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We dive deep into untold stories and real-life mysteries. Together, by staying informed and speaking up, we can help prevent another life from being cut short by senseless violence.